Hey guys, it's Jenny. Welcome to my channel and welcome back to part 4 of making a webtoon. So in part 3 of my series, I finished up my thumbnails for episode 3 of my webtoon, and then I also finished up 2 character design sheets for 2 side characters, Eli and Ikes. I also took some time in part 3's video to be a little vulnerable with you guys and be real and just express how I've been feeling a little lost with my art and second guessing all my efforts going into not just AMP, but pretty much everything artistically up until this point. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been encouraging me to continue making content and who has also empathized with my feelings of being a little lost and at times feeling wondering and second guessing if I'm doing the right thing by putting all my eggs into this artistic basket, so to speak. And be sure you tune in until the end to hear a little bit about my thoughts so far working on a webtoon series for the first time, as well as a status update on my entry for the Webtoon Legends contest. So without further ado, let's jump into the video. Hope you guys enjoyed this rather lengthy one, and I will catch you guys soon. After 3 episodes of sketching, working on thumbnails, doing a little bit of scripting, and finishing up my character design sheets for 2 characters in AMP, I am finally ready to start working on the line art. This is probably my favorite phase when it comes to working on any sort of piece, but it's also a bit nerve-wracking because I don't use a painterly style when it comes to my art, so I have to rely on my line art to really deliver what it is I'm doing. Therefore, it has to be as clean and crisp as I can possibly get it. I do like artists that utilize a more messy and painterly feel to their work, but I also like the sharpness of line art, so maybe the painterly style is something I can dabble in one day. I am working on the first panel, which has a lot of impact to new readers, right? Because it sets the tone for the story, and also it's your opportunity to grab the readers, hook them in, give them an idea of what they're in for if they decide to stick along and continue reading the series. So this is the first panel, the first real panel in AMP with people and not just filler art, so to speak. The way that I have this panel set up is there are a group of mysterious beings that are greater than the universe themselves, sitting down on these old thrones made of stone. And they happen to be gazing upon the planet Cosmora, which is where my story takes place on. I was going back and forth between how I wanted to do some of their character designs, but I felt it might be better, at least for now, to give the gods a bit of mystique, to reinforce the idea that they're not like Cosmorians, they're not mortals. So there is an air about them that's unknown, which is why I wanted to keep their faces covered. And also that way, if I happen to do a reveal or a close-up of a particular god's face, that panel will make more of an impact. So that was my artistic decision to keep them all covered. So once you scroll past that scene with the gods seated, looking at Cosmora, it transitions from space to the blue skies. Then we see our main character Selene here, trying to escape something, wounded and bleeding. I'm definitely going to make more time to read webtoons, and I would like to check out some of the other entries for this contest. I did a little bit about a month ago, right around the time that the contest started, but I haven't since then. I think it goes without saying, if you're working on a webtoon, graphic novel, or any sort of visual storytelling medium, try to read as much work as you can so you can build up your visual library of panels and get an idea on how other artists create their panels. You want to take inspiration from what you like, not copy it. And that comes from consuming a lot of different types of art. Working on the backgrounds and buildings has definitely been a challenge, especially when it comes to nailing that perspective down, but I definitely feel like I've been improving, and it's something I want to work on more. I want to work on creating portraits where there are people interacting with their surroundings and their background. After about, I don't know, at least a day and a half, maybe 2 days of working on line art, I am almost done with the first page of episode 1. This last panel is really throwing me off because the perspective is kind of like an aerial view. Are there still horizon lines and a vanishing point in aerial view shots? I don't know. I'm kind of thinking about scrapping it and doing like a 2-point perspective for the marketplace, which will probably take me a considerable amount of time to get it right, and I don't know if it's worth it. I'm just afraid that if I go through with the perspective I have now, it's going to look maybe a little wonky once I start adding the people in. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I think I'm just gonna give it a shot and see if I can pull off the 2-point perspective. This whole thing has been a learning experience on drawing backgrounds and perspective, so I guess I should be expecting this. After some time racking my brain over how to use the perspective ruler and trying to figure out exactly how I was going to draw the streets of Cape Valaius, I finally finished up this establishing shot where Selene walks into the streets as she's on the run, and we get to see what the town looks like. This is one of a handful of panels that I had to resketch because the perspective was not right during the initial sketch phase, so I had to sketch it again and then start working on the line art. I think one of the most difficult parts for this panel was making sure that I made the people as proportionate as I possibly could to the buildings around them. That also included furniture too. I did look into the assets just to see if there was anything in them I could use, but assets for crowds already come with outfits and everything, obviously. And it didn't really fit the idea of what I'd imagine civilians in Cape Valaius wearing. Cape Valaius is a rather tropical setting, and although there are people in the background, as you can see, that are wearing pants and stuff, there are lots of people that are wearing shorts. I know, it seems a little crazy to wear pants in a place that could be very humid and hot, but when it's really sunny, you also want to protect your skin as much as possible. So you'll stay clothed, you'll sweat a lot, but at least you're not going to get sunburned. I also added a couple extra panels to certain pages because I felt the transition in some parts of the story were a little too abrupt. So I wanted to find more ways again to give readers an idea of the setting before jumping into Selene in distress. As you guys probably saw in the 2-point perspective, the streets are very crowded. There's a lot of people out and about, eating food, and also just loitering and smoking cigarettes. We also have people that are selling goods, fruits, vegetables, and others that are doing what many of us do, which would be on our phones, scrolling, and maybe doing a little shopping while navigating busy streets. There is no shame in using references. Sometimes it's hard to come up with a pose straight from your imagination. The more you push yourself artistically, you'll get to a point where you won't have to rely on references as much. I'm not quite there yet, so I have no shame in pulling up references if I need to. It's not cheating, and I don't understand that argument that I've seen online where there are people that genuinely believe if you use references in your art, you're tracing or you're not being an actual artist. I also am going to change the way that I do the sketching phase for my webtoon. So when I started, I was using a painting brush, which has a lot of pressure sensitivity to it. But I think it just makes more sense for me to use the G pen for my sketches. I don't know why, I felt like it was a little easier for me to go over when I actually started the line art, so that was a little learning moment for myself. Something else that I've also been enjoying too has been utilizing the textures during the line art phase. It just adds a little bit more feel and dimension. Also saves me the time of having to hand draw textures too. I might hand draw some lines here and there just to kind of like give it that feel, but if I can find a texture brush in the library to use, then I'm going to use that instead.
Good morning, everyone. It is almost 6 o'clock on Thursday, March 6th. We're getting very close to March 10th, which is when the contest starts. And I am nowhere near done. I am, however, done lining the first page of episode 1. I have about, 6 more pages left. And there's, about 8 panels per page. So I still have a lot of work cut out for me. The first page and a half, maybe like a page and a quarter, it's going to take me the longest because I have a lot of panels that are very background oriented, so I need to put some time into fleshing that out to give readers an idea of what the setting is going to be like for a good chunk of the story. But I'm hoping I can knock out at least like 3 panels this morning before I work. I'm gonna be honest, I've been pretty tired lately. Haven't been waking up as early as I'd like to make progress with this before work. I've just been really exhausted this whole week. I've been trying to sleep earlier so I can wake up earlier, but I think waking up early and not getting enough rest is finally catching up to me, so I might need to just sleep in tomorrow. Yeah, I'm still waking up. So I'm gonna work on this and do some more during my break. Do some more after work. I need to take a break from this, like a nice long break, as determined as I am to finish this so I can submit it before May 15th. I also feel like it would do me some good if I just took a little bit of a breather away from my desk and maybe went outside to touch some grass. Actually, no, there's no grass here in El Paso. To touch some rocks. Maybe I'll go hiking this weekend with my husband just to get a little break from the mundane. Maybe I'll find some strike of inspiration, or I could take pictures and use that as references for future settings and AMP. Alright, that's enough babbling for me. I'm gonna get started on my work.
Something else that I tried experimenting with is refraining from using the symmetry tool when it comes to drawing characters. Because realistically, nobody has a perfectly symmetrical face. The thing is, I find myself taking more time to make sure that both sides of the face look as proportionate as the other side, so it involves a lot of flipping the canvas. And I did think to myself, would it be terrible if I used the symmetry tool just to save myself some time of having to draw both sides of the face and edit certain parts of it, rotate, tweak, skew it? After some time, I decided it might not be the worst thing to do that because I don't want to spend so much time on certain parts of my art if it's gonna take from me being able to finish everything within a reasonable time frame. So for shots where it's head on and you can see the entire face, I'm going to use the symmetry tool when it comes to main characters. Again, it just saves me a little bit of time, which I desperately need. So fun fact, you cannot use a Gaussian blur on vector layers. They have to be regular layers. So just a little tip in case anyone tries to use that for some sort of effect. Something I'm going to do different to save myself some time in the future when it comes to working on backgrounds and buildings, I am going to come up with a very rough sketch of what I'm doing using the smart grid, and then when I start working on the line art, I'm going to still keep that smart grid on so that all my lines are as perfectly straight as possible. During that panel where Selene's walking down the alley and she's about to enter the streets of Cape Valaius, I had used my sketch as a guide and then I went over it with my line art so my lines for buildings weren't straight. I wanted to do that because I've seen other people online do that with their backgrounds and settings, and it just gives their buildings a little bit less of a manufactured perfect look, but it also takes a lot of time, so I don't mind if my buildings and other objects that aren't organic shapes if they look perfectly straight. It's just a personal preference. I think it also just helps my art look a lot more clean if I follow this method. I've already learned so much about how I'm going to change up my sketching process and line art process from just working on the first couple of pages. Just the first couple of pages of episode 1. So I'm hoping now that I've built up some more experience and I have an idea on how to tackle certain things, I am hopefully going to pump out pages a lot quicker. I think it's really epic that Clip Studio Paint also allows you to use vectors instead of just regular raster layers. So if I have to blow something up or shrink it down, it's not going to lose the quality of the line art, which is amazing. Also, when you draw lines that intersect, you can get a little sloppy with it. You can erase vector lines very easily. Again, coming from Procreate where vectors aren't possible, it was something that I had to remind myself to take advantage of. I will say though, if anyone's ever messed with Adobe Illustrator, that's probably one of the best programs for creating vectors. But I mean, you could still make it work in Clip Studio Paint. As a Webtoon creator, there is a fine line that you must recognize and figure out yourself when it comes to how detailed you want background characters to be. One thing that I do enjoy about Webtoons is there's a little bit more leniency to omit backgrounds, put characters up against color, or not put a lot of details into people that are passing by in certain panels. But at the same time, I do like to make a little bit of effort to put details into background characters that I think would help build the world a little more. But again, a lot of people tend to spend a few seconds at the most on a panel, so you don't want to put all this time and energy into something that most people are going to skim over very quickly. Something else that I have started doing with my panels is thickening up the line weight in certain areas where I think the shadow would fall on. It just brings so much more life to my line art than if I left it alone. But it does take a little bit of extra work and some time.
We made it, finally, after 2 hours of hiking. Like, hold on. Way up there on that fucking ridge. But this is what we got. It was worth it. We did it, though. Bye. The water's way too fucking cold to jump into, as you can see by the icicles next to it. But yeah, we did it.
That's cool. Inception. I don't know how long it's been since I've done an update. I've been just cranking out panels and trying to really put all my focus into this. I am pretty tired today because daylight savings just passed yesterday. So we lost an hour technically, and I'm still recovering from the hike I went on Saturday, which was fun, challenging, a little suspect at times, but overall it was nice getting out of the house to just be active and do something that wasn't sitting at my desk and working on my panels. Yeah, I'm feeling sleep deprived. I'm a bit sore. I'm tired. I'm sleepy. I had a headache this morning, which made working really difficult, but I'm taking my break now and I'm gonna try to finish up the second to last panel on page 2, and then hopefully I can knock out the last panel real quick and then move on to the third page. I'm starting to make a little more progress now that I am moving a little bit past like some of the bigger establishing shots and just keep pushing along and catching my second wind and not, thinking too much about what I got myself into. I'm really tired if it's not evident, so see you guys in a bit. Wish me luck.
Guys, let me tell you, that hike that I took was intense. I haven't hiked in a while, and my husband and I went a little bit off trail since this was our first time on this hike. And man, I'm glad I had hiking shoes. Let me just say that. It was pretty tiring, so coming back and trying to get into the flow of panels again was a little hard at first, but I'm back at it. Just for a little bit longer, obviously, before I wrap up the video with my takeaways and updates. This is the most I've drawn in a very long time, and it has been equally exciting, intimidating, and invigorating to finally bring this project to life. It's been a lot of fun drawing this much, and I can't wait to see how episode 1 turns out once it's fully rendered. So before I wrap up part 4's video, I just want to give you guys first some takeaways that I have learned since starting my Webtoon series, and then I will give you the status update on my entry for the Webtoon Legend Contest. Takeaway number 1, it is really easy to get burnt out working on the same source material for weeks on end. Even if it's on a project you feel really passionate about, I don't think anyone can realistically sustain having that same amount of motivation and energy for something when they've been working on what feels like the same panel for the 50th time. You're gonna get bored, frustrated, and maybe even feel a little unmotivated after a certain point. So I do understand now why creators suggest to start with something smaller like a one-shot before you jump into your magnum opus, so to speak. But at the same time, I think if you do have an idea that you just can't stop thinking about, and it's something that takes up like 99% of your brain's working powers, then it's something that you shouldn't necessarily not work on, but you need to be willing to accept that there are going to be times where you're not going to feel very motivated, you're not going to feel really up to working on said project. So either pace yourself or take breaks from it, but do whatever you can so it doesn't burn you out to the point where you don't ever touch your passion project again. Takeaway number 2. Please, for the love of God, take into consideration all the obligations you have outside of art, because I promise you, working on a webtoon, working on a novel, a manga, anything like that is going to take so much more time than you could have ever fathomed, especially if it's your first one ever. There's going to be a lot of setbacks, whether technical or artistic, that you don't anticipate until you're in it. And once you're in it, it's kind of hard to not fixate on details, especially if you're a perfectionist. And that's a lot of wasted time. If you're so focused on the details instead of the overall picture, you're gonna expend a lot of energy. You're gonna expend a lot of time. And that could potentially mean that things outside of your art begin to suffer, and that's no bueno. Sacrificing your physical health or not being able to make it by and just putting everything into your art is not sustainable, it's not healthy, and it's not smart. So you wanna work smarter, not harder, you know? My third and final takeaway from my experience of starting... This is like the third time I've had to film this particular segment of the video. I'm gonna let them just get it out of their system so I can finish. Are y'all done? Oh, they're not done. My third and final takeaway that I want to share with you guys since I started my Webtoon series is this. If you have a series that you've been working on, but it's still in the preliminary stages of planning, and you have all these milestones that you want to hit before you actually start working on the visual aspect of it, don't. Just start it. Turn off that part of your brain that needs to plan everything out, put it on autopilot, and just start your series. Because what's most likely happening is you're procrastinating starting. And when you do that, you build up your series so much in your head that the very idea, the sheer thought of starting it is just so daunting and intimidating that you continue to plan it. I get it. You might not have everything of your world figured out, but this is the thing, right? There are aspects of your world that you haven't even considered because you haven't started your series yet. Take for instance, right? Let's say you are scripting. You're scripting out a scene where your main character is walking down the street. He passes by, or she passes, they pass by some civilians, and they also pass by some establishments. You're gonna probably just script it out like that. You might add a couple of things like there are buildings that are run down, etc. But it's not until you actually start drawing your panels are you thinking, wait a minute, what does an everyday civilian wear? What kind of products are sold in town? Little things like that you might not really consider until you're in the midst of it. And also, artistically, right? I get it. You might not be the best at drawing backgrounds. And when you start, you're going to draw a lot of things you either don't draw very often or at all. So you are bound to push yourself out of your comfort zone and actually grow artistically, but that can only be done if you do something you haven't done before. Just start it. I get it. There's a lot of pieces that, you haven't fully planned out, but I'm sure there's a lot you have. And the greatest thing that you can do right now is to start your series and see what parts of what you have planned is going to work and what are things that you most likely are going to have to scrap or, just change it up a little bit. Please just do it. You're going to improve. Your world's going to feel so much more fleshed out because you're going to think about things that you hadn't considered when you were too busy planning. Okay, so those are my 3 takeaways. Hope you guys can learn something from that. And now here is the biggest part of the video, which is the update on my entry for the Webtoon Legends contest. So, am I going to enter it? Will I be able to? As of today, it is April 23rd. I currently have, drum roll, like three pages of line art done. I'm not done with episode 1. So needless to say, no, I'm not going to be able to enter the contest on time. Not at all. I underestimated the amount of time this was going to take me. At some point, I think it was like in the last month, it started becoming more apparent and I kind of started accepting the reality that I just can't. I am not in a position in my life right now where I can dedicate as much time as I want to AMP. And if I could, I would probably be singing a different tune right now, but I'm not. I will still continue to upload content here on my channel if it doesn't include spoilers for the series, and I promise it will be published one day. It just can't be in the next couple of weeks, unfortunately. That's just the reality of it. Can't do it. I don't have the time, and I need to fill my tank back up so that I can continue headstrong with this. So just want to say thank you to everyone who has supported my channel and subscribed through my Making a Webtoon series. This is the best thing I can do for myself, but I promise AMP will be out there in the world one day. Just bear with me for, some more time, please. It's also crazy to think too that even though I'm not publishing it right now, I, can officially say that I'm not just an aspiring Webtoon creator, but I am a Webtoon creator. It's just my work's not published. So yeah, there's that. Cool way to look at all of this. All in all, I've had a fantastic time working on my Webtoon and actually starting it. It was really daunting. I was very scared and hesitant because, again, so many pieces are still in the air, so many things I still have to plan out. But I will say that that wanting to enter the Webtoon Legends contest is what pushed me to start. And had I not seriously considered it and was like, yeah, I can totally enter before the deadline, I think I would still be planning it. Well guys, that concludes today's video, which is part 4 of making a Webtoon series. I will continue this series, I just won't be uploading every week. I need to take a break and work on other art content that I think you guys will enjoy. But again, I still will upload stuff for AMP, so please stay tuned for that. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. It was a rather longer one, so, you know, maybe you were able to draw some panels and get some work done alongside with me. I also hope that you guys were able to take something from my takeaways and that, you know, something I say resonates, and it can also give you a little bit of motivation to start the scary thing. But I promise you're gonna feel so much more liberated doing it rather than letting it control you and keep you from bringing that amazing idea to the forefront, because the world deserves to hear your story and to hear your unique voice and message. So that pretty much wraps it up for me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope to catch y'all in the next one. So please take care of yourselves, take care of your health, get up, stretch, hang out with your friends, your family, your dogs, your cats, go take a walk, breathe in some fresh air, do something, take a break from your art, and I will catch you guys again in my next video. Take care, y'all. Bye!